Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is great to see you again. If you haven't yet done so, if this is your first time here or you just haven't had the chance to do it, please hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate it heaps, and I'm so close to that 1,000 mark, which is my goal for the year, and we're very close to the end of the year, so I'd appreciate it very, very much. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that has been on my mind for a little while and has come up again recently, and I wanted to ask you the questions about it because I've got an idea about what I think, but I'm not 100% certain, and it is this: are Singapore laws too strict? Now, the reason why this is on my mind is because a little while ago, at the end of that kind of COVID period, that moment where staycations became a thing of the past, one of my friends who's American said to me how he couldn't wait to get to Thailand or to Korea. And when we talked about it, it wasn't the typical Singapore's boring, which I addressed in my last video. I don't think it is at all. And the reason why he said it was because there was a sense of freedom that he had when he got out at the airport at these different places. He talked about how there was like a weight that lifted off his shoulder from leaving Singapore, and that he felt that there was this almost like oppression that he felt from living here. Now, I was really curious about this, and we asked a few more questions, and it turns out that he appreciates things like drinking excessively and partying and just getting up to various bits of mischief, and probably some of the lighter drugs that are very much a no-no over here, which I love, to be honest. But those were his thoughts, and he felt that in Singapore he always felt that he was in danger of getting in trouble. Whereas when he goes abroad, he feels that there's a real freedom and that he's not going to get in trouble. As you can imagine, I found this really interesting, and it got me thinking, particularly as Singapore has a reputation of being a very strict country. Do we feel it? Do we all feel it? I don't think I do, if I'm honest. I don't have a lifestyle where I drink excessively, I don't do drugs, and so I don't feel under pressure about getting caught for doing the wrong thing, because I think my lifestyle doesn't really do the wrong things. My lifestyle is pretty straightforward. I'm a pretty easygoing and very easy flowing guy, and I think because we don't do those things, we don't feel the pressure of getting caught, because, well, we're not doing anything to get caught by. So do you think our laws are too strict? Just going on the bus or the MRT or walking around town, really, you get to see all these different signs that tell us that we're going to get fined for various different things: for littering, for spitting gum, for bringing durian onto the train, all these different things, and the consequences are kind of heavy, to be honest, and maybe this is where people feel that things are really strict, because the consequences are followed through with. Now, a couple of weeks ago we read that there was some sort of stabbing or attempted stabbing in the mall in Serangoon, in Nex, and we were really shocked, first of all, because this sort of stuff you never really hear of in Singapore. And then when we read the article, it said that the person who was guilty of doing that was already charged and was already put on trial, essentially, within a few days. And we noticed the contrast that in the UK, what would happen is that that person would be told, or the public would be told, that that person would be going on trial in a few months' time for whatever reason. And I don't know, like, it just seems that that is a really long time to wait for something that's so clearly obvious, and in Singapore it made sense. We are a nation that has, like I said, a lot of fines. There is still caning that goes on. There is still the death penalty, which is pretty intense, and I know that it is something that is very contentious, that a lot of people in the media who are familiar with Singapore will talk about wanting to get rid of. But for me, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about those things. Obviously, I definitely don't feel like the death penalty is something I would support myself. It's not something that goes with my own values, which are of grace and of giving people another chance. But I understand the weight that is placed upon that sort of situation, and it's a weight that is very heavy on people, which means it works as a fantastic deterrent. Now, I'm really aware of the debate between freedom and safety, where freedom is something that people sometimes say isn't there in Singapore, that there is a real sense of control here because of these laws that I've talked about. However, there is the flip side, which is safety, and it's definitely the side that I sit on with regards to safety in this country. For example, those of you who checked out our new channel, Wanderlust Food, Millie went out with some friends the other night at 1 AM to go and have some food and to see what that food was like. And I love the fact that I could rest at home assured knowing that she was going to be perfectly fine, there was nothing for me to worry about. And true enough, she made her way back home. I was already asleep by the time she got back. But it's not something that I worry about as a husband, or it's not something that I worry about as a dad with my kids. Sometimes they take themselves to or from school, and I love that. For me, that sense of safety actually provides me and my family with a lot of freedom. And like I said before, the things that we get up to, our enjoyment of life doesn't require excessive drinking or the use of drugs, and so I think that is something that doesn't seem to affect us. Now, I'm curious for many of you out there who watch these videos and love to get involved in conversation here, and I appreciate it. What are your thoughts? Do you feel that Singapore is too strict? Do you feel like there is a playing off? I wonder whether if Singapore was to ease off on its laws, for example, it would become less safe and it would be less of a wonderful place to be. One of my previous videos was about why women feel safer in Singapore, and I definitely think it's because of this strictness of laws, definitely, or whether maybe not so much the strictness, but because actually some of these laws are the same laws in other countries, just that Singapore goes through with consequences for not adhering to the laws. And I think that's a really, really interesting point too. What's the point in having laws if you don't stick to them? What's the point in having courtesy and manners if you don't teach them in a way that places gravitas and weight on those things? For example, here in Singapore, I don't think I've ever heard of a situation where there's been any catcalling. If you don't know what catcalling is, I mean, that just goes to show that it doesn't happen here. Catcalling is when typically men on the street will whistle at or shout at a girl who they think is attractive and try to get some sort of attention back. Now, this happens an awful lot in the UK. Millie will tell you, and many, many women in the UK will tell you, they can't walk past a building site without being whistled at or called out to. And I think those men will often say that it's a compliment, but actually the girls find it quite uncomfortable. Now, that doesn't happen in Singapore because there's a real sense of respect for women and for each other and for people in society, and I love that that doesn't happen here. I know that Millie loves it, that doesn't happen here, but it does make me wonder whether this sense of strictness of the laws is because Singapore actually just goes through with enforcing the laws. Jaywalking, for example, seems like a really, really small and silly one. We've recently seen videos of what happens. I don't know if you've seen them or caught them. Some really, really sad videos of on Mothership or other places where people have been in car accidents because they've been jaywalking, looking at their phones and kind of doing the wrong thing. Again, the phones issue is one that I addressed and talked about on a previous video. I'd love for you to go and check that out because I thought the points raised were really interesting, and the developments of which have happened in countries like Australia more recently, and you should check that out and see what I say. But let's back to this one. What do you think? Let me know. Do you think Singapore laws are just fine the way they are? Do you think that they're too strict? Do you think it's the consequences that just need to ease up a little bit? I love that we get called a fine city, but the fine obviously is a play on words, but it does for me make for a really beautiful place to live, a clean and a safe place to live. What do you think? Join the conversation, drop me some messages below. I'm really interested in your thoughts. I appreciate it heaps. Don't forget to hit subscribe, to like, to share this with your friends, to ask them their opinions, to strike up the conversations. You never know what they're going to say. And we'll catch you next time, hopefully in just a few days. See you later.